Hello, everybody. After a week vacation, I am back. Welcome to another episode of Congratulations to the 47th President, Dr. Cornel West. I am joined by a returning guest who I will let introduce himself here in just a moment. Um, just a quick reminder, like this podcast, share this podcast, comment. Your comments are going to be greatly needed because we're gonna bounce around a little bit since Paris is a returning guest. um we're going to talk a little bit about the debate. I know we did a whole debate response, but I'm going to actually talk about some things that I think may work out for the West campaign that we'll probably disagree with. We'll talk a little bit about Project 2025. That's something the two of us disagree about. Paris thinks is a concern. I think is a plot to get people to vote Democrat, but that's just, my opinion. So we're going to have a great time today. So remember to like, share, comment, and as always, visit CornelWest2024.com. Remember to donate, donate, donate. The campaign has not stopped me yet from saying that. Even a $5 contribution goes and makes a great difference. Paris, how are you doing?
I am doing good, Tracy. Thank you for asking, and it's a pleasure to be back on your podcast. With that, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. This is my least favorite time of year. I hate summer. I hate
Oh,
everything it stands for.
is that
I
right?
don't like it. Winter, I keep counting down to winter because that's my favorite season. I love the snow. I love the ice. I love the chill. I can't with hot weather. I cannot.
Yeah, and my two favorite seasons, especially here in Indiana, spring and fall.
Spring
I've
is a
ex-
yeah.
I've experienced some of the most perfect days in perfect conditions here in Indiana during that time frame. Those two seasons.
Spring is okay. Fall is okay, but summer serves no purpose. Okay, so I don't know if you watched the alternative parties candidate debate last night, but there was something I found a little bit disturbing. And usually, for those of you that don't know how this show works, I usually come up with five of the dumbest things that I've ever heard said about Dr. West, and we discuss them. Well, Paris has done that already. I have some new ones that I'm going to dedicate myself to asking the return guests. Here it is. Dr. West is afraid of debating.
So that's one of the ideas circulating right now that he's
If you
afraid.
if you had watched the Freedom Forum, which Dr. West did participate in, he participated in the Freedom Forum. He just didn't participate in the debate portion. So they had like a
Okay.
whole full day of activities, but the debate portion he was not a part of. And two of the candidates, and I'm not going to name the candidates because we're not going to do that anti-Green Party stuff today. That was a couple of weeks ago. Um, Mentioned it, and then the Libertarian candidate was like, "Well, why don't you debate us? You're scared." Or they
Yeah,
didn't say he was scared. They suggested without really saying. Like, if you heard what I'm like, oh, they're saying Dr. West is scared.
and you know that old proverbial saying, be careful what you ask for and don't bite off more than you can chew. We all have heard Dr. West. We've heard him uh, pontificate, elocute. We've heard him debate. I've seen him debate people who are much more epistemic than the candidates that are running for those other parties. And he not only held his own, but he made such a compelling diatribe that he was able to walk away from that exchange pretty much intact. Dr. West is not afraid of debate, discussion, diatribe, you name it. He's willing to do it. However, my question is, why did they call him out like that? There has to be some ulterior motive.
I have my theories.
What's your theory? What's your thesis?
I I think they don't want to debate her.
Of course, they don't want to debate her.
And this is why. And again, I don't want to hear anybody, you're putting down the Green Party, blah, 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 blah. But keep in mind, the Green Party did approach Dr. West. It wasn't the other way around, right? That's a fact. I think that, well, let me backtrack. I do think that Dr. West should be in a debate. I absolutely do. He's missed two so far, but he's got one more in September, and I think he should sit down with opposing candidates to have a general discussion. That part I absolutely agree about, because you can't complain about not being on a debate stage with Trump and Biden when you won't debate Oliver and Stein. That just doesn't make sense, right? You have to take the opportunities as you get them. I do believe that. However, the reason I think that they criticize him, it could be one or two reasons. One, they know he's a skilled debater, but they can say if he debates, oh, look at what we did. We made him come. We drew him out, if that's making sense. Or they just have no idea what Dr. West's debate skills are, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because anybody that's watched Dr. West in a debate knows he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and he's very polished with his foreign and domestic policy and platform. So he'll be able to enter into whatever debate discussion there might be, whatever topics they might throw at him. And I'm just trying, because I didn't know that was
I'll send you
some
the
of the
link.
rhetoric that
No,
was.
it was on last night. Like, their first debate was really good. Dr. West on that one either. But the first debate was really good. I mean, they really had the type of debate that I like to see. A discussion of ideas, a discussion of platforms. This second one, I'm like, okay, so I see they're going to just team up on Dr. West. Oh, okay, I see how this is going down.
Well, he's going to have to show up, to your point, to make sure he stands in the gap for himself and those who are supporting him, right? And America as a whole. We deserve to have someone speak out on our behalf. And that's the whole reason behind supporting him and signing up, signing on to the campaign, so that I can do what I can to help reform the political process in America, because that's exactly what he talks about. That's part of his platform, right? He wants to decenter the plutocracy, the oligarchy. He wants to knock them off their moorings, so that way people, the plebeian, the everyday citizen, has an opportunity. And in his platform, he does consider them as part of his central motif, the poor and working class, because he understands that if America is to ever be great, we need to make sure we're taking care of those who are considered the least of these. He quotes Matthew 25 all the time, right? How will you ultimately be measured? How will you ultimately find your way into paradisos unless you have taken care of those who were considered marginalized, mitigated, and left behind?
See, if I was Dr. West, I'd be like, y'all keep my name out your mouth. See, you know, this are this country does
Thank
not
God
need
you're
me
not
to.
running.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
God you're not running for president.
You best be glad, because I'd be like, keep my name out your mouth.
Yeah. There's no
Keep.
diplomacy in that at all.
Nope, I don't have it. I don't have. I don't use, like, Paris uses like them $20 words. No, not me. I'm going down to them $3-4 words, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, no, I'm gonna say right here. You keep my name out of your
Keep
mouth.
my name out your mouth. That is hilarious.
Because it's, if you watch it, and maybe you won't get the sense that I did, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
they trying to pull this one. Oh, okay, I
Mhm.
see how it goes. And like I said, I think he should debate. I absolutely think he needs to, not to just show us, because we know what his skills are, but it's to show America, hey, this is who I am. Now, how many people watch that form?
Exactly.
Not a
It may
lot,
not even, yeah, it may not even
but
be worth his time or effort. But again, as a presidential candidate,
you have
you
to go
do
where it's
need to
open.
you do need to stand on stage with those people who are opposing you, and exchange ideas, exchange ideologies, exchange why you are running for president, and make clear, not only to the people on stage, because again, he can't convince them either way. They are going to oppose him. He has to convince America. This is
Yep.
why I'm running. And he's done a great job of that so far. He has a very consistent message, and you and I have talked about this before. He is a man of integrity. He's always stood for the same things he's standing for as a presidential candidate. I remember, when I first began following him, I thought it was absolutely refreshing, right? It was like morning dew. It was so fresh. His ideology and his approach, and some of the things that he was able to delineate in his writings and his messages, to the point to where I'm like, you know what? I respect this man, and I'm telling you right now, over those 20 years, there's nothing he's done to detract me. Only thing he's ever done was make his case, make his platform more attractive. Now that he is running for president, the most powerful office in the world right now, it's important to throw my efforts, my energies, my thoughts, and my resources behind him to help him realize that goal.
And also, I'll bring up some comments here, but I also think they teamed up on it because he's a threat.
Of course, he's a threat.
They
If he
they
wasn't a
know
threat,
he
they
yeah,
wouldn't mention him.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
they wouldn't
mean,
even talk about him.
they know he's the strong. Yeah, they know he's the stronger candidate. He has the most concise platform. Like I said, he has the best platform I have ever read by any presidential candidate. No doubts
Most,
about it.
yeah,
Hands
most complete.
down, complete, concise. He makes clear what he wants to do. I still can't tell you what the Green Party wants to do. I'm still like, well, I think they want. I think they're for reparations. I guess I know they're advocates for what I call the rainbow community. I know that, and I know they're advocates for the environment. What about poor people? What about wages? What about it just amazed me that they did that. I'm like, oh, so we taking shots. And like I said, he should have told them keep your name out my mouth. That's right. That's what I think. See, y'all don't want me to run for nothing. Because first of all, you think Trump says what his on his mind? Oh no. Oh no. See, Trump's lying. I'm telling you the truth when I say something on my mind. I'm telling you exactly what I think. Um, so
You, you made a case against the Green Party and their lack of BIPOC coverage. In other words, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. They don't include them in their platform. They don't include them in their speeches. If ever they talk about them, it's an afterthought, and that is disconcerting. One thing that Dr. West has done is he put at the forefront, right, African Americans, because we have been the most scrutinized, we have been the most uh, mitigated, castigated, deracinated of all peoples in this country. That doesn't ever attenuate the struggles and the traumas that indigenous people faced. No, this is their land, right?
yep.
Manifest destiny. I mean, the smallpox incidents, uh, the wounded knee, all that is very problematic, and they face their share. Mexican Americans, part of this country was theirs as well, right? And they can't even come home to part of their own country because America took it and absolutely refused them.
Well, there's millions and millions of them come. Oh my gosh, I don't want. I'm gonna get
You
to that point later because I got some other questions for you. Keep go
Okay,
ahead. I'm
okay.
sorry.
I was just going to talk about the Nazi Germany and the pogroms that they were talking about against the Jewish, and how they were able to stir up the hatred, right? and the vitriol against a group of people, if we think that's not happening with Mexican Americans and the border crises, right? Right now, we've got another thing coming. Now, we also know that this country was built. Well, first of all, start off by saying this country was established. Then it was built on the back of free and cheap labor. The
Slave
reason
labor,
free and cheap,
forced free labor.
free and cheap labor. That's how this country was able to realize its magnitude, its wealth, and its reach, right? To where now it's the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Now, they've maintained that through the free and cheap labor of those coming across the border. That's why there's been no real reform. And when Biden introduced, legislation, the Republicans shot it down because they don't want it. Now, even though Trump supposedly was the ringleader behind that, he's the one that they pay obeisance to, and why they chose not to, pass that through Congress. But we also know, Democrat and Republican, the wealthy do not want to actually rid America of free and cheap labor.
And then what makes me angry about that is a lot of people in the black community are now saying things that are anti-immigrant, and I'm like, they're not the problem. I'm
No, they're
so
not.
tired of hearing, oh, well, they give money to the immigrants, but like, no, no, they do give. I'm not gonna say they don't, but what it's, I have to make people see it's on purpose. It's to
The
pit
end
us
game. Yeah.
against each other, and we need
The
to
end game.
stop that. We need to. It's not their fault. First of all, we invaded their countries, and that's what made them come to the United States in the first place. So let's get that straight.
Yeah. The Monroe Doctrine allowed us to go south of the border and anywhere in the Western Hemisphere and do exactly whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah,
And that's what happened south of the border.
so we need to be questioning, why is the government giving more money to this group than that group when there should be a more equal disparity, and we need to, as groups, stop arguing over these. They're not even giving us crumbs anymore yet. They're not even giving us crumbs
No,
anymore.
they're not.
So
They're
I would
not.
say stop the immigrant hate. They're coming here to get a better life. If I thought there was a better life in Guatemala or Venezuela, I'm gone. Bye.
Well, I think that proposition is more enticing today than it was yesterday or last year. Going somewhere else other than America, because the threat of what we will become if a certain candidate is reelected president, the 47th president. Yeah. And I know we'll get into this later on, but yeah, there's an existential threat to this country and to those of us who live there. Now, the reason they don't allow us to coalesce around unity, because they know that there's strength in numbers and we will overwhelm the system. So when you read The Art of War, one of the strategies is to divide and conquer,
Conquered. Yep. Yep.
right? And if you segment people and then you indoctrinate them to feel certain ways about people who don't look like them, people who don't act like them, who don't practice the same religious ideologies and theologies, when they speak a different language, right? As if we have an official language here in America. Well, then you have really divided those people against one another, and it's a lot easier to manipulate them because they'll fall for it. Well, as Goebbels said, you can tell them lies, big enough lies. You tell it often enough. I mean, think about what people think of African Americans. First of all, if one African American does it, if one African American fails, if one African American somehow, breaks out and realizes some monicum of success, well, then see, there's no more racism in America. Obama's the president. We're post racial, right? Or they see some nefarious behavior perpetrated like Chicago. They're struggling there, and we know why. We know who really sent the guns, sent the bullets, took the jobs, took the schools, took every opportunity they had, and then also infiltrated the community with drugs. Well, what else do they have? And one thing that Dr. West talks about in his book, um, Race Matters, is what happens when someone has been told you were never anything, Trump. Your people come from what? That expletive country, right?
Leave old countries.
Right? And your SOBs, you're not like us. You'll never rise to that level. We have a supremacy over everyone else. When people are taught that, even before they're born, right? Because it's in the DNA of their ancestors, in our ancestors. And until you learn better, and until you get the kind of intensive psychological help that you need to break away from that even psychological slavery, you become nihilistic, right? It's a process that takes place over time. But what happens to a nihilistic idea or person who possesses that idea? Well, I was always told I'm nothing, so why do I give a darn about whoever it is? So when they say, hey, listen, in order to be included, everybody wants to be included in something, right? You're going to have to take somebody out, or you're going to have to be jumped in. I don't like the idea of being beaten half to death. So it's easy for me to take someone out because I have no real connection. There's no real humanity in me. So I don't see any humanity in anyone else. So that becomes a lot easier to negotiate. So when you think about what's happened to us as African Americans and those people who are, again, considered those who have made it, they're wealthy, the billionaires, and I have such a critique about each and every one of them. When you think about and you combine them all together, they still don't come to what one Jeff Bezos is worth, right? Number one. Number two, they had to make a Faustian deal in order to get to where they are. They had to sell their souls. And along with selling their souls, they've sold us out. There's several characters that the big screen and the small screen has done a real good job of creating. The Stephen in Django Unchained, right? We have a lot of Stevens. They'll do whatever they can for their massa, right? Including denigrating, including um, coming out and saying all manner of things against their own people and their community. Because, see, I'm different. I'm not like them. I am the exception, right? And another character, I don't know if you know who Uncle Ruckus is from the Boondocks, but this man thought he was white and that he was dealing with inverse vitiligo, where his skin was made dark over a period of time because he absolutely hated himself. He hated himself and he hated his community. So he had to come up with a reason as to why he looked the way he did. It's very sophisticated when you think about that thought process. But when you think about those individuals and what they did to get to where they are, and I mean, we could name them, right? Robert Smith, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, you name them. Whoever is a billionaire, Jay-Z, you go down the line. There's certain things they did in order to realize that kind of wealth. And they're nothing but what Dr. West called Obama at the time. They're white men in blackface. They're white women in blackface, right?
Black
All you have to
faces
do
in
is
high places.
right, and you know what they say: all all
Skin
all
folk
uh,
ain't kinfolk.
all skin folk ain't kinfolk. All those who look like us are not about us, and they prove it. And then we're supposed to look up to them, and we're supposed to hold them on this pedestal, like they are what we want to become. No, Dr. Cornel West made a great point. He said, back in the 60s, everybody remembers Dr. Martin Luther King, they remember Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamers. You remember them. Who can remember who the richest African American was in the 1960s?
No
Exactly.
idea.
Exactly. Right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's what they want us to aspire to become. And we have to denounce that and understand that we're better and that we have to be about community because as they've proven to Michael Jackson, to Prince, to Bill Cosby, to O.J. Simpson, when you think you're too big and you think you're bigger than what you are, we will put you back in your place, even if it has to be by death or imprisonment. But we will make you know you are not us.
Yep. Now I'm gonna totally switch up on you, and I get.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, everybody, remember to visit CornelWest2024.com for election updates. Um, there are some. I was gonna say battleground states. Yeah, that's right. Battleground states that Dr. West is still trying to get on the ballot. We're thankful for Michigan, thankful for North Carolina and all the other states, but we've got to do our best to get many states as possible. So visit that site to volunteer. I have to talk about the debate. Have to, have to, have to.
All
I'm
right.
going to frame my question in this way. When Dr. West last year started talking about Biden may not be the nominee,
Right.
I was
He
like,
may
are
drop
you
out. Mm-hmm.
crazy? Of course he's going to be the nominee. The DNC's already anointed him as the nominee. Well, all I had to do was wait. All I had to do was wait. And I saw literally the worst debate that I have ever seen in my entire life. Two old white men with cognitive issues debating each other. But Biden may not be the nominee. And I think when Dr. West said it, we were just like, what has he been smoking? And now I'm realizing, you know what? He was right about that too. I think I'm saying it is more of like, oh, I should have listened. And I didn't. If that's making any sense.
Oh, yeah, it makes absolute sense. And he talks about what happened in the 60s, right? As Lyndon Baines Johnson dropped out, Robert F. Kennedy was in the forefront, but we know what happened to that, right? He was assassinated before he was able to realize his true opportunity. And he likens today's environment and culture to that same thing. I tend to disagree. I don't think Biden's going to drop out. There are talks in some corners about him doing that, especially after that debate, but they can't afford to
Switch it
just
out.
they can't afford to just jettison him because that would destabilize everything. And there's only one real alternate person they can put in his place,
It's
and
Kamala.
they don't want that.
Yeah,
They
it's like
don't want that,
you can't just pluck somebody out. It's got to be her. She's the next
right?
person. However, I'm going to disagree
Not
with
Gavin Newsom, right?
everybody's saying it.
Not Beto O'Rourke, not any of the rest of them. It has to be Kamala
Yeah,
Harris.
she's the only one that makes sense. But here's what I actually think. I'm going to talk about one side where I think he's going to drop out, and the other side where I don't think he is.
Sure.
Because I'm halfway there. If he resigns as president, therefore making Kamala the first female president we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And then he drops out of the race. I think with the donors, and this is why I'm glad that Dr. West does not take corporate PAC money, because this is all donor driven. The Democrat Party does not care who the nominee is. One, because I really don't think they want to win. Because if
You
you
don't think
really,
so?
I don't. Because if they wanted to win, why would you put up? Why wouldn't you have primaries? You wouldn't put up Biden. You would put up somebody way better. Somebody way better. But they did what they did to Bernie. They got together, decided this is the nominee. and said, "Hey, Democrats, we're going to shove this down your throat, whether you like it or not." So in one sense, I think, haha, just what you get. You stuck with this bad, terrible candidate, and you will lose in November. Hey, Biden, you're going to lose.
That's kind of definitive, isn't it?
You, oh, he has to. He's at 36% approval rating. Nobody has. He's got numbers worse than Jimmy Carter. Worse, way worse. He's definitely losing. He's definitely losing. And for me, I wouldn't vote for him if he passed reparations, Medicare for all,
What?
Green New Deal. I sure would not, because I
Tracy.
I despise the Democratic Party. Despise them. I don't like the way that they just drop black people like we're just out there, and most of their support comes from because Republicans they can win without the black vote. They don't need black people to win. But
No,
the
they
Democrats.
just they suppress the black
No, I'm
vote.
talking about in terms of their support. Their support comes from white people.
Yeah, but the reason they're able to still realize the presidential
Oh, wait a minute.
office.
I'm
Can you
sorry
hear
to
me?
interrupt. We got some news that just came across.
Uh oh.
The recent news just announces someone just tried to assassinate Trump.
Is that real? I'm going on my
Oh,
news
and
feed.
welcome, Nelson, to the show. I think if
Is that sensationalized? Come on, man. That sounds a little too convenient.
apparently it is true. Former President Donald Trump was rushed off stage just minutes
Yeah,
into
news
his rally
for
in Pennsylvania. So apparently, yep.
assassination attempt. Now, isn't that just a little too convenient? Again,
Yeah,
what they're
now yeah,
trying.
that's why I was like, me trying. But I think this is where it benefits Dr. West. I'm going to actually talk about my argument where I think it benefits Dr. West either way. If he drops out, I say make Dr. West a Democratic nominee. That's what I say. That's like literally the only way I would vote for Democrats. Because I
Mm.
can't stand what they did to black people. I can't stand it. It makes no sense. You know your support comes from the black people. Without black people, you can't win. But yet, every time we bring up reparations, every time we bring up mothers that die in childbirth, now is not the time.
Voting rights. Yeah,
Voters,
voting rights.
you couldn't
Securing
get
voting rights.
voters' rights. Even I thought they were going to get voters' rights. So for me, Biden dropping out helps Dr. West because he only then has one schmuck to worry about, which is Trump and RFK.
Yeah, if Biden drops out, it's going to present an untenable situation, and I believe he'll drop out because for selfish reasons, because he wants to upset the process in place, and he wants to really stick it to the people who are telling him he needs to get out. But what you're finding again, there's a confluence of Democratic leaders who are surrounding him and supporting him. Right? They got past that initial disappointment, and now they're rallying around Joe Biden more and more
And they're going
every
to
day.
lose. And then
And
they'll,
they might lose because of it.
oh, they
However,
might lose. No, no, they will. I'm calling it right now today. They will lose. And then they'll blame Dr. West. Well, if he hadn't ran.
and I just think there's a whole lot more life to live between now and November. You talked about the poll results and his popularity. Most people aren't even engaged right now in politics. They will later on after the summer. Then we can really take the pulse of the proletariat and find out what they're thinking. But right now, it's still too early. There's a whole lot that's happened. I mean, when you think about everything that's taken place since the beginning of the year, most people aren't engaged, and it won't even hold up after the summer. Their memory, it won't be in their DNA, it won't be in their memory at all. And that's when you really see the candidates roll up their sleeves
Yeah.
and start really campaigning.
And here's how I think that it would benefit Dr. West if Biden stays in the race. You
Stays in
just
the race.
stays in the race.
Sure.
Your own party didn't want you. Why would America want you?
Mm-hmm.
56% of Democrats say it's time for Joe Biden to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Enough sense to use that in your campaign? I don't know what to tell you. I can't
Well,
say nothing. When your own party says, hey, it's time to roll it up, pack this thing up, and move. Now, of course, polls, they always change. They change week to week to week to week. But I think
exactly.
it could
Exactly.
benefit him by saying, hey, America saw your debate. It ain't going to get better. He already called Trump his vice president at the NATO press conference. He's already, in the more gaffes he's making, because he's going to keep on making them, it's going to get harder to defend. That's why I'm edging towards he resigns as president and then as a nominee. Because I don't think he just resigns as just a nominee. I think he goes both. Now,
Mm.
I could be wrong because, heck, I thought Hillary was going to win. Don't know why I thought that. I thought Trump was going to win re-election because I thought, oh, incumbents are hard to beat. So I've been wrong before,
You're
but
0 for 2 the
I'm 0 for 2.
last
So
two
basically,
presidential.
don't listen to me because apparently I don't know anything. But I think it's interesting that in 2023, I said 2024 is going to be one for the history books.
You
Because I
know,
knew something. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know what because I'm not psychic. And of course, if I was, I'd be like, what the lottery numbers are. But I knew something was like undercurrent going to happen. But I didn't. There's no way I could have predicted this.
that it would result in
Yeah,
the way
you
it
had
did.
a yeah the way the whole election is set up. I never would have dreamed that Dr. West would have gotten into the race.
Mm.
When Dr. West
Okay.
got into the race, I immediately like I'm in, but I was shocked because I'm like, this man literally said, "I'd rather be in a crack house than the White House,"
Yep.
and I
Yep.
remember that quote. And I'm like,
Yep.
he's running. It must be really bad. I was happy, 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 happy. Wasn't happy when he went to the moving for a white people's party, but I was still like, I'll just vote for him and not the party. Then he went to the Green Party. We know what happened with the Green Party, and now he's on his own. And I think his campaign is doing much better since he's been on his own. But that's my opinion. And of course, y'all know what I say about opinions. Everybody's got one. But you never would have I never would have guessed that Dr. West would have ran. Never. If I had put a list together, I remember I did another show where I named a list of people that I would vote for, and Dr. West was number two. I was
Mm.
like, I definitely vote for him, no question about
Who was number
it.
one?
Nina Turner was number one.
Oh, love me some Nina Turner.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, because I got to pick a female, got to pick somebody black, got to go with that.
I
But
love Nina Turner.
yeah, so she was one, he was two. And when he ran, because I really thought Nia was going to run. And I was like, oh, no, I see she's not. But then when Dr. West announced he was going to run, I'm like, I'm in, whatever it takes, whatever I can do. It doesn't even matter. In.
It didn't take me long to sign on. As soon as I found out that he threw his name into the hat, I was looking to sign on immediately. And that's how I met you.
Yep.
That's how
And
I
his
met
world
you.
has never been the same since. But I think that that's the thing when we have to remember. And, when you're a volunteer for a campaign, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a separate video, I don't think people know with few volunteers,
Mm.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of you're thinking, did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Did I make the pitch the way I had? Because I realized signature gathering, I'm not about that life. Either you gonna sign it or you not. I literally don't have anything else I can say. Um Bears take it because we got another comment that I
Somebody
want to
else
get
is
to.
saying.
Yeah, I
Okay.
want to get.
Hey, real quick regarding the signature gathering, as you can attest, that was a strength I possessed. I really loved interacting with
Yeah, you
John and
way better than me. I'm like, no, if Paris could just get 40,000 signatures, we'd be right there.
not going to happen, but
But
not for lack of trying, right?
yeah, we
Uh,
tried our best. We
yeah,
we,
yeah.
we literally did, and that's what the victory and the defeat is. No, we didn't get 36,000 signatures, but we tried our best to get them.
Yeah, it wasn't for lack of effort. Now, what I hear you saying, just going back to the Biden, the Trump, and the duopoly, people have said over 67% of adults said they're looking for a third party alternative because we're tired of the outdated modalities that the duopoly presents. People of color, neither of the parties represent us. We know that,
Mm-mm.
right? And how do we know? Because they've proven that. When you think about the tax cut that Trump passed, that when he passed that legislation, he created more millionaires, more multimillionaires, more billionaires, and more multi-billionaires than we've ever seen in the history of the world. So that should tell you something about what that did. It also goes to the idea now that we subsidize corporate America to the tune of $100 billion a year. $100 billion a year. How is a country ever going to overcome that when you look at our national debt and you look at the needs that continue to arise when it comes to universal health care, when it comes to uh, free student loans and uh, access to academy, right? When it comes to all the things that this country needs, I mean, free daycare, all that stuff would help this country be more competitive. It would help this country allow its citizenry, the proletariat to be more loyal because it's reciprocity, right? Quid pro quo, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And when you look at what a country and its government should be doing, it should be doing exactly that. It should be doing things to help protect its citizenry, including ameliorating their lives, allowing them to live a lifestyle that is manageable. And that's one reason why Cornel West makes sense because he talks about living wages. Did you know that in the 1960s, even though the minimum wage was lower, comparatively, they made more money than they're making
Do
today,
now. Yeah, absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
is absolutely
Makes no
unacceptable.
sense.
It's unconscionable when you think about what this country is. And we expect people to earn and live off of a minimum wage. And remember, back then, minimum wage was more people who had those minimum wage jobs were more teenagers, people still in school, college, whatever, and they're working on the side. Today, adults have to have minimum wage jobs, two or three, just to survive, and the month is still longer than their paycheck. It lasts longer than their paycheck. So when you think about all of that that's going on in this country, who's speaking to that other than Dr. Cornel West? We're not
Absolutely.
we're not getting it from either party, right?
And I'll
We get a lot
ask,
of rhetoric, we get a
yeah,
lot of legerdemain, we get a lot of empty promises, specifically from the Democratic Party along those lines. But who has, executive orders or legislation that has, just real quick, I wanted to make a note because another thing that people are talking about as to why they're voting for Donald Trump, he gave us free money,
mm-mm-mm.
the stimulus checks, right?
That, what, $1,800? I mean, I took it. Don't get me wrong. Hey, I spent mine. But we should be getting universal base income.
Which is what Dr. West is
What's it
talking about. Number
for?
one,
Exactly.
that Dr. West is talking about that in his platform. However, Donald Trump didn't issue those checks. That
Nope.
came from Congress. It was a decision. Plus, what people don't realize or accept, this country was in a whole different situation. The world was. People didn't have jobs. They weren't going to work. Most people were displaced. More people were laid off. There was no income coming in, and Congress had to make a decision to create some kind of stimulus package.
And it
And that's
wasn't
what that
enough.
was. No, it's never going to be enough. Now, the billionaires and the millionaires, they're going to get more, right? Superfluous amounts. But to the everyday John and Jane Doe? No, just enough to keep you quiet, to make you think
Uh-huh.
that we're doing something for you. And to this day, there are people saying they will support Donald Trump because he gave us free money. Joe Biden isn't giving us free money, even though the last check that came out, right, as a part of that was from during Joe Biden's administration. He just didn't put his name on.
Well, remember though, Joe Biden promised the $2,000 checks, and somehow that reduced to 1,400 when he could have just said, "Hey, Trump gave 1,800 total. It was 1,200 the first time, and then 600 the second time." And then when Biden was in Georgia, because I remember the speech, he was like, "If you send me Warnock and Ossoff, and he used the word guarantee,
Yeah.
I will give you $2,000 checks." Of course, 2,000 still isn't enough. We should have been getting that monthly, but good luck getting a congressperson to even suggest that. Good luck with people like Joe Manchin that say if you get it, all you'll do is do drugs and buy guns. I don't even know how people that live off of free healthcare they can get it, but apparently nobody else can. But keep that in mind. Joe Biden literally promised $2,000 checks and then said, and this is another problem I have with Democrats. He said, I guarantee $2,000 checks. Did we get them? Nope. He said because you got $600 checks, we'll subtract and give you 1,400. When he should have just said that from the beginning. He
Yeah.
guaranteed voters' rights for black people. Do we have voters' rights?
The
No, we
John
do
Lewis
not.
voting, yeah, John Lewis Voting
and
Rights
and
Act.
that
Yeah.
act didn't even go far enough, but at least it was strong. It was like the strongest you were going to get. And then they
At
tried to
that time, yeah, at
at
that
that
time.
time that was going to be the best you could get, so take that step. Then you get Kirsten Cinema and Joe Manchin quoting Dr. King and John Lewis, and then saying, no, we're not going to do this filibuster thing. And then you get Joe Biden saying, well, if you lose the filibuster, this should really tell you that neither party cares about you, right? He said, if you get rid of the filibuster, that will lead to chaos. Filibuster is not in the Constitution.
No, it's not.
When they voted against, when all the Republicans voted against raising the minimum wage to $15, they were joined by 8 Democrats. They interviewed one of the 8 Democrats that voted against it, and she said, "Well, how can you be against this? This would mean a lot towards people that are making less than $15." Oh, I'm for it. It's just because a certain senator voted for it, I'm against it. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go home and tell your people that you voted against something that you campaigned on, and then blame a progressive or somebody to the left of you were running. They're taking away my votes. They don't belong to you. They don't belong to you. This is what frustrates me about black people that support the Democrats. They have not did anything, and I mean literally since what, the 1964 Voters' Rights Act. I can't count anything significant. Matter of fact, let me take Democrats off of it. Let me add Republicans. I can't think of anything the Republican Party has done since Lincoln freed the slaves. Literally, I can't. I'm sitting there like, well, what was it? It was, well, there was Jim Crow, there was hangings, there were lynchings, there were what?
Immolations, people
And
being
I'm
burnt,
like, yeah, and
castigate, yeah,
it's just
castrations and things of that nature. I don't want to lose this thought because you were just talking about. Um, I'm trying to remember the point you were just making.
all my points are
Well,
valid.
first of all, voting rights, right? We know the Constitution, the 15th Amendment, codified our right to vote.
Absolutely.
The 1965 Voting Rights Act went further to guarantee our voting rights. However, we know in 2012, the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, gutted the Voting Rights Act. The one thing, the one lever that they had against those states that tried to suppress, that showed they will suppress people of minorities' votes, that was taken away. They don't have to go and get permission to change their voting rights They can do it, and they have absolute autonomy. And we've seen where that has gotten us since 2012. We are in more danger of more people being disenfranchised this election than before. And you think about what happened after you talked about the Civil War and after Lincoln, and Lincoln didn't free the slaves. And that's a misnomer. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation to Southern states. He had no jurisdiction in the Southern states. We were fighting the Southern states, right? So name one commander, one person in charge that was going to listen to him and free their slaves. That wasn't impossible. It was the 13th Amendment that actually freed enslaved people.
Yep.
And we need to make sure that people understand that and they know that unequivocally. Lincoln did not free one, because he had slaves in the North. He didn't free one of those because it wasn't about
Slavery in the first. Well,
emancipation. It
yeah,
wasn't
it was
about
about
emancipation. It was
exactly.
more a political stunt, right? And that's what unfortunately a lot of the presidents of the United States have done. They've done a lot of performative behaviors and measures just to get people to well, again, we've got the biggest actor, the biggest hypocrite running on the Republican side. And that's why I question the news that you just read about an assassination attempt. If this guy didn't set that up so that he can
Allegedly,
rally,
because YouTube was, they'll cut you off in the middle.
well, yeah, I went
Yeah,
online. I read there was some Google
yeah, because
news.
they'll take you off in the middle, and then people like, "Then you was off." Yeah, we got to use the word alleged. He set it up
Oh, allegedly,
allegedly.
allegedly. Yeah. Well, you know what? You're a little more sensitive to that than I am. So allegedly, I do believe that allegedly he set that up because that's who he is. The guy is nothing more than a reality star, not a great one at that. When you look at his performance, he's a horrible, horrible actor, but he has tapped into the sensibilities of his base, right? Race matters, Dr. Cornel West, and he knew that. It is the most intractable issue in America. And as Dr. Cornel West wrote in his book, which to me is probably the thesis, it could destroy this country and tear it apart. It almost did in the 19th century. Trump understands that. He's a demagogue who understands that. He doesn't have to be a Christian who practices Christianity, the tenets, the Decalogue, or the Ten Commandments. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who will quote from 2 Corinthians. Everybody who's been in church, I don't care how young you are, you could be in nursery
You
school
could almost be an
and go
atheist and be like,
to
2 Corinthians, really?
and go to Bible study and know it's never been called 2 Corinthians. But he got away with it, and he was at the biggest seminary in the country when he said that.
Yep. Not to take you off of what you're talking about,
Sure.
but we got some comments, and then we got to get to our big discussion.
All right, go ahead. Talk to me.
So, let's see. Cornel West is the best candidate. Oh, that's not the one. Let's start from the beginning. Because this one, so bias, I'm going to have to ask you what you mean by this, Tracy. We're going to win. I'm a troll. I didn't think you were a troll, but I know we will win with Dr. West, Dr. King, and Malcolm. I know you rock on keep it going. So you're going to have to kind of explain that one because I got lost here. Nelson, hi Nelson, says the recent news just announced that Trump was assassinated. Okay, so this is the one I want to get to. Biden only beat Trump because that backstabbing Bernie Sanders got progressives to vote for him. Abraham Lincoln paid reparations to Southern plantation owners for losing their
Absolutely.
slaves, but gave nothing to
Absolutely.
the slaves that left their own.
Absolutely.
And then the 40 acres of
That's who
Hill.
Lincoln. That's who Lincoln is, and that's the party of Lincoln. And I don't want people to ever forget that. I appreciate whoever wrote that because
Nelson.
that is the absolute truth. They got reparations. They were
And
paid.
we can't get them.
And we've never been, and we can't even have a discussion. We can't even have a real open dialogue about why reparations, number one. What was the injury? What was the ignominy that African
And,
Americans faced in this country? Because
and
we've given reparations to everyone else. We've given them to
but
indigenous
when it
people. We've
comes to
given them.
black people, and I've talked to many presidential candidates on my other show, and I always ask, how come when it comes to black people, not reparations for, like Joe Biden tried to say, well, as long as you're talking about indigenous, that's not the question they were asking you, Joe Biden. The black journalists specifically ask you, are you for reparations for black Americans who are descendants of slaves? That's either a yes or that's a no.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, for years, we need to study it. Why do I need to study to know that my people built this country for free? Why do I need to study to know that we're in prison at higher rates than I don't need a study to know that we're denied loans in higher numbers. I don't need a study.
Yeah.
I experience it.
Disproportionately.
I
Disproportionately.
don't need a study. This is the one thing that I refute. I don't understand again how black people support the Democrat. I need somebody to sit me down and explain to me how you can look at Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and I'm going to include RFK because he's nothing but a Democrat anyway. How can you
Democrat like.
look at how you look at those three and say, you know what? That's what I'm going with. For what reason? Do something that's bold. Vote, because I know a lot of people said, oh, well, I would love to vote for Dr. West. Do it. Whether you got to write his name in, do it. Stop being scared. If you keep voting the same way that you've been voting, you're going to keep getting the same thing you've always got.
The very definition of insanity.
Insanity. And I can't understand it. And for me, it's always been like, what? So we're going to move on to Project 2025.
Ooh, bring it on,
Yeah.
Tracy.
And we're not going to spend long on it because I do
Okay.
have some other questions, though.
Okay. All right. Bring it on.
So, in brief, Project 2025 is a project by the Heritage Foundation. That's about 983, 84 pages long. And it outlines a plan for America. They have January 22nd or whenever they say that Trump will eventually get nominated. Or
20th of January.
where,
20th
yes,
of January,
he'll be
when
installed as president. These are the things that they want to do. I am not saying, no, I'm going to let Paris speak first. And brief, don't be all day on it. Just about 2 minutes, go.
How could you do that? Bring me on the show. Bring up
Nah, because we
Project 2025 and give me 2 minutes?
3. I'll be generous.
That is so unrealistic. And the first thing I want to say is DEI is DIE, day one. They have already written out and they've delineated how they're going to begin to deconstruct and threaten arrest for those who are in politics, for those who are in academy, for those who are in corporate America, who continues to try and push DEI through their and now through their channels or their systems. Now we know that DEI is just an appellation for affirmative action, right? It's
Right.
just another way of saying affirmative action. It's
Which
another
never
way.
benefited black people. Never did benefit black people, but continue.
Well, there was a case that allowed us some entree into certain parts, but of course, we had to be extremely qualified, overqualified.
Overqualified.
As our parents used to tell you, you have to be twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as good just to level up, because we know the soft bigotry of low expectations
Right.
allows them entree without ever thinking about it and thinking somehow they did everything to earn that right to be there, right? They were born on third base and thought they hit a home run. That is just unthinkable when you think about the 400-year head start they've had. Now, when it comes to education, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to things of that nature, you can write off any opportunities African Americans will have or people of color in general because, as they said, they are going after each of those programs. Everything that happened in the 60s after the Civil Rights Act, gone. Voting Rights Act, thing of the past. Affirmative action, they've already done everything they can to dismantle that. Housing, fair housing, gone, right? Why do you think all of these companies are buying up homes and not having people live in them? And then the Supreme Court justice outlawing people who are unhoused. Now, what else I wanted to say about this is that they are coalescing their efforts around the Claremont Institute and Moms for Liberty. If you don't know who those two groups are, you better look and you better understand. Moms for Liberty has done more to radicalize local school districts around racism. So if you don't think they are serious and they're effective, you got to think about what they've done to local school boards, how they've infiltrated it, and how they're sitting on those boards doing exactly what they want to do, which is denouncing. Tracy, we don't think they're serious. We don't think book burnings is serious. We don't think calling everything African American history, CRT or DEI, serious. And in the state of Florida, this is a law on the books. You can't even make a white person feel uncomfortable talking about your history. How in the hell do you measure that?
How
I'm
the
sorry.
heck?
How the heck? Yeah. How
That's
the
a
heck?
$7 donation to the campaign.
Okay, you can get it from my check or from my account. Get it from my account. On the account, I'm not paying it. Anyway, what I wanted to say,
Edie
what I
paid
wanted to,
hers. Why can't you pay yours?
Edie, can you pay mine? Thank you. Um, Now, what was my train of thought? Oh, yeah, you can't even make a person feel uncomfortable. And that's not allegedly. That's law. That's black and white. That's de jure. It's not de facto, it's de jure. Now, when you think that all of these little steps that they've made to create the environment that they want, don't think twice about what they're willing to do. And I got to say this. I've asked you before to read the book They Thought They Were Free, Epsilus, dot, 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 until it was too late. How Milton Mayer, who was a Jewish American writer, went over to Nazi Germany after it fell and he began to interview them what happened. And when you read that book and they begin to delineate the behaviors and the events and just the sheer shock and awe of spectacle, you'll see exactly what we are experiencing today. Did you know it took Nazi Germany 15 years to be fully realized after uh, the World War One, after 1918? 15 years. But when it was fully realized, it was too late. They couldn't do anything about it. They have been working on this since the 1970s. My grandfather sat me down in the 1980s and he told me that we're sliding into fascism in the 80s, Tracy. I didn't understand it back then. In retrospect, it made sense. But remember, this man had fought in World War II. He saw fascism up close and in person. He knew what he was talking about. And when he saw some of the things that were going on, how Ronald Reagan violated us, violated the Constitution, and got away with it by saying, "Oh, I was asleep during those meetings." What? Then afterwards, he confessed, "I wasn't asleep. I just said that to get away with it." Right? There was no redress. There was nothing. As a matter of fact, up until Trump, most white Americans thought Ronald Reagan was the best president that ever presided over America. My grandfather saw that and he warned me. Now, we've come a lot farther along that continuum towards fascism today than we were back then because those events are happening more frequently all the time. We can't even wrap our head around the last event before the next one takes place. 34 count felon. What? He's still walking the street. What? Wasn't July 11th supposed to be his sentencing? What? Now,
Oh, it's
again,
moved to September. It's moved to September now.
do you understand what I'm saying? You
I
think that's
do.
by.
Here's my pushback because I'm going to give you
Sure.
pushback. I do not disagree with anything you just said.
Because I've got a lot more. You just don't let me go on. You won't let me
No, because
pontificate.
we've already
You
been
cut
an
off
hour.
you
No,
cut off
but
my soliloquy.
here's the problem I have with Project 20. To me, I'm not, like I said, I don't disagree. They have a plan. They've written
Yes,
it
they
out.
do. Yes,
They
they
have
do.
all
And they
these
have.
plans.
Yes.
What the Democratic Party doing about them? Here's my theory.
Why are we concerned about the Democratic
No,
Party?
no,
We
wait a
know they're
minute.
feckless. We know they're
No,
pusillanimous.
but that's my whole point.
You
This
remember
is my
Hannah
point.
Arendt?
No, you're
Hannah
not.
Arendt,
Oh, okay,
Hannah
because
Arendt's Anna Arendt's totalitarianism. She got in trouble with Jewish people because she talked about Jewish complicity. Nazi Germany would have never been realized if it wasn't complicity. Tracy, there's complicity on both sides. Go ahead.
but what I'm saying is the Democrats are using Project to get people to vote for Joe Biden. If you can't agree
Oh,
with just that,
you
if
think
you
the
can't agree
Heritage
with
you think the
they're getting.
Heritage Foundation has anything to do with Democrats? Absolutely
I
not.
said the
Not in
Democrats
name
are
anyway.
using. The Democrats are using Project
Okay.
2025
Yeah.
to get. Hold on, let me get my whole
Absolutely.
point. My whole
Absolutely.
point out.
Get your point across. Get your
My
point across.
question to everybody, because I did a Facebook post. I marked myself safe from Project 2025 hysteria. I say, okay, they wrote down their plans. When you gonna write down yours?
They won't, Tracy.
I ask all the people who want to make me aware of this because I'm fully aware of Project 2025. Already in my head, I'm thinking, oh, what can I do? What can I do to counter this? Now, I don't hold elected office, but I know how to open my mouth whether I'm in prison or not in prison. I know that I, as a citizen, and I would want everybody to know this, we as citizens, they wrote out their plans to like, okay, you're going to do this, so I'm going to do this. And I don't like the I want to be proactive instead of reactive. I don't want to be sitting on the side using Project 2025 to say, oh, vote for Joe Biden. Because I already think the Supreme Court, they've already gutted voters' rights. They've already said being homeless is illegal, but you don't give them a place to live. They're doing that right now today.
Right now,
They
it's
don't.
done.
They've been talking, some of those things they've been talking about since I was like 8 or 9 years old. They've always wanted to get rid of
You're making the
Social.
point. You're making
No,
the
wait a
case.
minute. Hold on a second, though. But what I'm saying, though, is Joe Biden himself has said, I want to get rid of Social Security. He's put in a czar that wants to get rid of Social Security, and he's supposed to be on the other side. So my question to everybody that wants me to just freak out over Project 2020, because trust me, I'm not. I'm not losing. I'm not losing no sleep over. Ain't gonna lose no sleep over. Because I'm going to do something. You're not going to just run up on me and I'm just not going to say nothing. I'm not going to do
Tracy.
nothing. I'm
Tracy.
going to do something.
Well, you
Not
are
what.
doing something. You're part of the Cornel West campaign. So
Right.
you are doing you've rolled up your sleeves because
Yes.
that's the only way we're going to
But,
um,
but
we're
I
going
think
to counter. Go
my
ahead.
point is, though,
Well, what is your point?
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Number one,
Did you yell at me?
yes, I did. Because I want to know if, like for instance, I already said, hey, Joe Biden can pass Medicare for all, Green New Deal, and reparation. I'm still not going to vote for you because you still genocide.
Wow.
You
Wow.
guilty of genocide. You killed
Wow.
35,000 Palestinians. Don't care what you're doing domestically.
Right.
Because me having Medicare for all ain't gonna save them 35,000 children in
No.
Palestine that died for no
No.
reason. So
We
you
still
do.
fight for them.
I'm gonna still fight for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can vote to make me a millionaire. I'm still not gonna vote for you. That's what I purposed in my mind. So for me, it doesn't matter what they say about Project 20. I'm still not gonna vote for Joe Biden. Problem is, I ain't the only one on Facebook. I literally read a couple posts that, oh, I'm voting for him now because I don't want this. And my
Mhm.
point is, voting for Joe Biden ain't gonna save you from that. They're gonna do that stuff whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump or RFK. They're doing that stuff now. So stop being. It's like they said out loud what they've been planning for years and years. Like I said, I don't disagree with you. They wrote the plan out. They've been planning this for since I was a
Decade,
kid. Yeah, decades.
decade.
Since, no, yeah, decades. Literally.
Mhm.
They've talked about some things I don't think they're serious about. I don't think they were going to ban abortion because I don't think the Republican Party wants to. I think the Republican Party does what the Democrats want to do. Democrats don't want to codify abortion because Joe Biden out his mouth said, oh, we're not going to try to codify it. What do you mean? You have the House, the Senate, and the White House. You can literally codify it. And I don't think that Republicans want abortions banned nationwide. Why? Because Trump was president. They had a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president. Did you see any law outlawed abortion nationally? No, you did not. So I think the parties use that and some things like that to get people to give them money. That's literally what I think. And I think what has to happen is when I start reading people saying, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden um, because of this, my point is, it's still gonna happen. You've got a plan on protesting. I know you're old school protesting, general strikes, all those type of things have to be employed no matter which of those three. I think that's my point. Because if Biden gets reelected, they're not gonna just stop at Project 2025. They're gonna be talking about Project 2029. Right? There's always
2028,
gonna yeah, but 29 was be when they take
2029
office.
is when they take
Yeah,
office.
right. I'm saying, like I said, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that one, the Democrats are a joke because okay, they wrote a Project 2025. Why don't y'all write one called "This is Hope 2025"? Because you not, because you probably helped write it. Yep, I said it. I think you helped write it. I'll say it again. Affordable Care Act was suggested by the Heritage Foundation. But hey, I'm not one to criticize Obama. That's not what this show is about. But when I see people use that and say, hey, you need to vote for Biden, I'm going to have a whole lot of problems with it because I'm like, no matter if you vote for Biden or Trump or Kennedy, because again, it's those three that are leading, you're going to pretty much get the same thing. You need to vote for somebody like who cares about, well, we don't have a democracy, we have an oligarchy, who wants to get in the empire to bring the empire down. That's what we need to do, and that's why I support Dr. West. I think that's my overall reaching point.
Now, we both agree we're voting for Dr. Cornel West. We're supporting him with feet on the ground, rolling up our sleeves, material, right? We're materially involved in seeing him to the White House. I get that, but my diatribe with you is around um, comparing and conflating um, Trump with Biden. They are two different people,
Oh no, I
and
think they're the same side of.
Trump is an extremist because he has so much self-aggrandizing egoism that he wants to do this. He has told us, Tracy, Biden's never told us this. Biden's never come out and said, listen, I want my people, like you own people. I want my people to respond to me the same the way North Koreans respond to Kim Jong Un. I beg your pardon. He lionized Mussolini, right? And quoted Mussolini long before he quoted Mein Kampf, right? We know that he has this this love and attraction for people who are in power. How the president of China, right, is the president. How the president of Russia, Putin, right? They're presidents forever. He wants the same thing. How do we know? Well, January 6th should have told you a whole lot. If
I'm
you
not
think this guy,
disagree.
if you think this guy is playing, You got another thing coming. And that's why I say read that book. They thought they were free. They didn't think it would happen, right? They never thought in a million years they would be Nazi-eyed until it was too late. And then we talk about the book, Orwellian uh,
1984.
dystopic culture, what he wrote in 1984, even Animal Farm for little kids to understand that when people come to power and they possess the ability to torment, traumatize, and rule over other people, they won't just do it, but they will do it with absolute prejudice. Trump has already shown that. The guy is up on 34 counts, been found guilty. The guy has raped a woman, has been found guilty. And then he badmouths her, been found guilty. He extorted, right, New York City, been found guilty. He's still up on 3 more charges: election interference in Georgia, the Records Act, and also um, election interference. And
Again,
January 6th.
I'm
This
not
guy is
disagreeing
not,
with you.
he's willing to go way beyond what any other politician has gone. He's beyond the pale. Joe Biden is a feckless, and this is what Dr. West's issue is with the Democratic Party. They're feckless and they're pusillanimous. They are weak. He calls them milk toast, right? They're milk toast because they see all of this happening. And as Hannah Arendt wrote, there's so much complicity that, and this is what Dr. West has made the point. He said, listen, fascism is going to happen anyway because we've got a weak counterparty in the Democratic Party. If it doesn't happen in 2024, it's going to happen later on. It will happen
Yeah.
because of the conditions that we find ourselves in today.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're
They thought
saying.
they were free.
I'm just saying that when I see Facebook posts that say, "Hey, I wasn't even gonna vote, but I'm gonna vote for Joe Biden now because of
Okay.
Project 24." That's what I'm having the problem with because I know the
Okay.
Democrats are using it as a scare tactic, i.e., the
Sure.
BET Awards.
And why not? Yeah, why not? What?
They
Oh,
get,
Taraji P.
yeah,
Henson?
yes, and I'm like, did you see the commercial?
Which commercial?
The one with her and Harris.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
somebody wrote that down. Yep, yep.
Mhm.
Dr. West, I know you don't watch this show and stuff like that. Don't do no mess like that.
Yeah, it's pandering at its worst.
It's no, it's beyond pandering. I'm like, this is terrible. This is
Yeah.
terrible. I'm like, girl, you got nominated for an Oscar. Then Kamala said, I'm in these streets. I'm like, girl, what streets are you in?
When
Cause
has
I'm
Kamala ever been in the streets, right?
when
That's a vernacular she has no right to use because she's an elitist.
I'm like, like it's worse than pandering.
That's exactly what it is, Tracy.
And
It's
no, it's worse.
pandering.
It's
It's
like a word that's
pandering.
worse. It's got to be something worse than pandering because it's like worse. Pandering is like, yeah, you go, girl, you do you. Okay, that's
I'm
pandering.
in these streets, pandering.
But she went way beyond that when she said, I'm in, you know me, I'm in these streets. I'm like, girl, what streets are you in? Are you in these homeless streets that under your administration and Joe Biden's administration actually increased?
Yeah.
You under these
Yeah.
streets? Because if you
Why
was
would?
in
Go
these
ahead.
streets, you would be working with Congress to get some legislation passed. But you
Yeah, it
in them
was a
streets.
colloquial. It was a colloquial that was ill-fitted, and really, it was insulting
Yeah, but people didn't take it that way. And that's
because
what
that's what pandering does, Tracy. It allows people to feel like they are a part of, and everybody wants to be a part of something. She's speaking our language. She's talking to
she
me
speak
directly.
she's speaking other people's language because when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, I'm not the brightest.
Yes,
I'm
you are.
not. No, I'm
You're a lot
not.
smarter than you give yourself credit.
Um,
People who are listening, I'm telling you, I have worked with Tracy for, oh my goodness, since what,
almost
last September?
last September.
Yeah,
Yep.
almost a year. And Tracy is one of the most creative, epistemic, smart, sapiential people you will ever interact with. I know this because I can speak firsthand.
Don't listen to anything he's saying because I was the one that said Hillary Clinton was going to beat Trump.
Well, we all thought that. Again, that was a far fetched idea that Trump would win. Well, remember, like Hitler, Trump was a joke. People laughed at him. He was a laughing stock,
And on
but he
election day,
won and he
yeah,
kept winning,
before I move to the last thing,
like Hitler.
on
Go ahead.
election day when Joe Biden loses, instead of blaming Dr. West, you need to blame Mayor Garland. And before you blame Mayor Garland, you need to blame Hillary and Bill Clinton that talked him into running for president in the first place. The end. But I think this is so important because we know that people are told, well, there's only two choices. No, there's literally 100 people running for president of the United States. 100. 100 with their counter cohort as vice presidents. So you have more choices. Well, that's too many. Well, you could go to a grocery store. You do this all the time. When you see several types of soda, you make the decision about which one you're going to get, whether it's sugar free or whether it's not. Then you narrow it down. Stop with the excuses. Either the 67% of Americans that say that they want a third party, we need to be voting for Dr. Cornel West. Period. Period. Because
Yes, we're both in alignment and in agreement. That's why we are working on the campaign actively right now. Even though the signature gathering part of the campaign is behind us, we're still involved because you're absolutely right. If we're going to see reform, if we're going to see change, we're the one who has to make it happen. There's nobody coming to save us.
I got some more comments. I'm like, Nelson is on one today.
Go on, Nelson.
We just have to focus on getting Cornel West for president and everything else will fall into place. I want to agree with that so bad.
I want to so bad myself.
But here comes the problem, right?
Well, this is America.
Yeah. Let's just say, when Cornel West becomes president, and I know this show is called Congratulations to the 47th President of the United States, Dr. Cornel West. First of all, they go into court. If you think the Democrats and Republicans are going to sit back...
If you think.
If they go into court, number one. Number two, let's say the Supreme Court grows a backbone and says, well, okay, we're not going to do this whole thing over. He gets into the White House. I say move a bunch of homeless people in there. That's what I say do. But, I'm not Dr. West. But anyway, he gets in there. What chances does he have of passing anything that he wants?
With Congress, absolutely not.
He has no chance unless you get people there
for
support.
Laying up. Yeah, we have to vote down ballot as well.
Yes, we have to vote down ballot. Right. Right. But the State of the Union address will be on point. You be wanting to watch that. You be like, yeah, let's watch the State of the Union because we're going to hear something. We're going to hear something. Get them church. Yes, take it because can't nobody do it like Dr. West, period. No we be like, this is the most entertaining, informative State of the Union address ever.
Yeah. Very excitable.
But could you imagine the global respect America would get?
It would be different for sure.
People be like, they, because believe it or not, people are actually laughing. People actually feel sorry for Americans because we're caught up into, it has to be Democrat, it has to be Republican.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to go back to what you were saying, I don't want to lose this point. People celebrated when Obama was elected president all over the world. Remember the parties and the congregations that were coming together just celebrating America until we found out,
he worse than the other ones. He just like him.
He's just another American politician, right? And that deflated a lot of people, including a lot of white people who voted for him here in America.
But Nelson, you wrong for this one. I'm sorry to say it, but I can't take Kamala Harris' cackle off of
a laugh.
You wrong.
You are on something today.
You own one, but I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But that's
my issue with Kamala Harris is what she did, right? When she was an attorney in California, and how she not only threatened but sent parents to jail because their kids weren't going to school. Instead of trying to find a remedy for why children weren't coming to school, right? Let's hold the parents accountable and let's uh, prosecute them. And these were African American, Mexican American, people of color. She
They
wasn't
weren't
sending white
white.
folks. She wasn't sending white folks. So that's my issue with Kamala Harris. Now, when she ran for president, she did kind of step up on the parapet and shared some ideas about being what it's like being African American. She remember the time she challenged Joe Biden on his busing issue, kind of calling him out in the presidential debate. That didn't go anywhere. That's my issue with her. I think she told us who she is. And to your point, in that commercial when she talked about hitting those streets,
No, she was in them streets.
yeah, she's in. Yeah, same thing, right? She's in them streets. That was very insulting, right? The ignominy of someone to think that we are so stupid and ignorant and desperate that we're going to fall for the same things we fell for under the Obama administration.
But I have several problems. Besides her saying, well, if you think I'm just going to do something specific. Well, she said the part that Obama refused to say out loud,
What's
right?
that?
She said, hey, if you think I'm going to just do something that benefits the black people, you're just out of your mind, or something to that effect, right?
And
That's what Obama did, right? Because he did do it.
he did what?
He threw black people under the bus.
Oh yeah, he said, "I'm not the president of Black America. I'm the president of the United States of America."
Which is partially true. You are the president of the United States. But as my daddy used to tell me, don't forget the bridge that brought you over.
Right? And don't forget who you are. We've heard that said how many times? Don't forget who you are, your identity. You should be inextricably tied to the community that you came out of,
Yeah, so
who supported you. They supported you.
according to her, she used to support Medicare for all. Now, of course, she doesn't. Joe Biden picking her was just political, right?
I didn't have a problem with him picking her because who else was he going to pick?
Barbara Lee. He could have picked.
You're out of your darn mind. I'm not going to use an explicitive, but you almost made me use an explicit.
I'm just saying.
Like that was a reality.
No, I'm naming people, right?
That was never
he's gonna pick
happen.
a corporate. I mean, I know he's gonna pick a corporate Democrat, and that's what he picked. If y'all think, if you think they BFFs, no, 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 no. So again, Concern Project 2025. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm gonna vote for Joe Biden when I know dude killed 35,000 Palestinian children, and
That's
you're
fair.
okay with this?
That is overdue criticism.
And like I said, the Democrats are either just sitting back like, well, we're not going to respond to it. We're just going to. They use fear. Both sides do it. Both sides use fear because I don't think Republicans support Trump as much as they used to. I think what they do is say, hey, you can either vote for Trump, if you don't vote for Trump, you'll just get Biden. Biden is way worse than Trump, so they're like, yep. And now I'm hearing black people, the economy was good under Trump. I'm like, are you serious? It was terrible under Trump. He told people to drink disinfectant. I was going to say bleach, but that's not true. He said disinfectant.
You might as well say bleach. It's the same damn. Oh, deletive. I didn't say that.
Nobody respects this show.
You get me riled up. You do when you say stuff like that because it's the exact truth. People were going to the hospital because they were injecting, they were inhaling, they were taking what he prescribed. And then he talked later on, oh, I was just kidding. Ivermectin. People were injecting themselves with horse dewormer medicine. Are you out of your mind? He told us that it would just blow over. Once the summer comes around, it's just going to blow over.
No, he said Easter. He said Easter Sunday, we would be in our congregation. We was not in church that Easter Sunday. We did Zoom. He used Easter was the first period. Then he said summer. I'm like, dude. But the vaccine was under his administration. I can't say it wasn't. It was. The fact that he got 5 things right still surprises me. I'm like, you got something right. I can't even believe it. But you just kind of walked into it. And I feel like, well, let me get to Nelson's comment first, and then I'll get to my last thing. Yeah, but Obama's father was not African American. Otherwise, he would have been taught different. And there you go.
And he would not have made it to president of the United States. He had to have the kind of mind that he possessed
If
in order to reach the level of success he did. He couldn't think like Tracy or I. He couldn't think like other African Americans who are conscious, who are somewhat woke, because that is antithetical to
I,
what white supremacy was looking for. Obama was the ideal black can. If you've never read The
another
Wretched
book
of
by
the Earth,
you.
The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon does a great job of narrating who they look for when they're looking for representation. They look for people who are tall, dark, handsome. They bring them in, they put them in their best schools. Obama went to Harvard, right? And they teach them their language, they teach them their ideologies, their sensibilities, their values, and then they unleash them on their own. And that's exactly what Obama was. He was unleashed on the African American community, on the Native American community, on the Mexican American community, on the Muslim community. We were all put under a spell. And this man spoke like, oh, he speaks so well for a black man.
Joe
I
Biden
beg your
said that
pardon.
he's articulate and clean cut.
I beg your pardon, right?
That's what he said. That's what he said.
Right. But it only goes to say that they thought he was the exception. He was the one that Frantz Fanon was talking about. He fits the description perfectly. He went to their schools. He learned their language. He got a law degree in their academy. He knew he was the freaking president. I didn't curse. He was the president, right? Of the students there in Harvard. So he was definitely chosen because of the brain he had and the way he thought. He would not have made it otherwise. So
No, because and again, and I get in trouble when I say this, and I'm still gonna stand beside it. I still think he's the worst president in my lifetime.
wow, that
I
now
do.
I don't agree with that, but
I do because what was I getting? He worse than Trump. No, Trump. What was I getting out of him? Trump actually met my expectations. As terrible as he is, and he was terrible. But I'm like Obama because of that hope and change message. I think it's because of the buy-in that I did, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
ooh,
yeah.
nah, bruh. I'd rather you be a Trump and tell me you don't like me, because at
Yeah,
least I
we were all
know.
disillusioned.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the disillusion because you, I'm gonna codify Roe v. Wade. When you had 60 senators that could, and then you blamed Joe Lieberman. No, you never wanted to codify it in the first place.
No, he was too interested. If you ever read his book,
Which
the
one?
audacity of hope, before he became president, he talked about what he wanted to do as president. He wanted to leave a legacy. He didn't care about anything else.
Mm-mm.
His job was to leave a legacy like FDR, right? The New Deal. He wanted to have that opportunity, but it was going to be around universal health care. And that was the one main legislation he passed. And after that, he was feckless.
Now wait a minute, now, Paris. I'm gonna have to argue with you about the Affordable
Bring
Care
on the
Act.
diatribe.
Affordable Care Act is Heritage Foundation. Point blank, it's called Romney Care. Before
It is Romney Care. The very idea, right, of it is Romney Care. However, that was what Obama
yeah, that's what he
wanted as
did.
a legacy, and
He
that was the
never he
only.
never
That,
talked about the public
he was
option.
very myopic. He was very myopic in his thought process because he knew that this would be his legacy. And he writes about it. Read it for
But
yourself.
it would have been
He tells us
better,
what he's.
right? If it would have been better, his legacy would have been more solidified if he had went for Medicare for all.
But that's not what he was going to do.
But that's not what he wanted.
No, that's not what he's going to do.
See, he wasn't going to do it because he didn't want it, right?
Mm-mm.
And let's set it up this way. Joe Biden does not want to defund Israel. When Netanyahu comes here July 24th, now I guarantee this, he's going to ask for more money and he's going to get more than he asked for.
Yeah.
I bleeping guarantee it.
Hey,
I
Tracy,
guarantee it.
I have an appointment I have to get to, but I wanted to leave the people on your podcast with an idea before I leave. In the book, they thought they were free. There's two things that Milton Meyer left us. They're Latin terms: principius obsta and respis finum. Principius obsta means you fight from the very beginning. At the very idea of fascism, you fight. You don't wait until it materializes because it's too late. And then at the end, you do it until the end. You have to consider the end. You can't stop the fight until it's over.
Yep.
Our responsibility, once we've engaged and once we're in the fight, we can't stop until it's over. So please, everyone listening, make sure that if you're not involved already, get involved. Start locally. Fight at whatever level you can because this is real. And as I told Tracy, there's an existential threat to each and every one of us that live in America and the world. Because if a despot has controls over you of the United States of America, you better believe a lot of the rest of the world are going to fall into place. We're going to be so afraid and full of perturbation, they won't be able to do anything to fight it. So, unlike Hitler. So, go ahead.
So I'm going to show our commercial, and then I have a special announcement that I have to make about my channel, which I usually don't. I don't do this often, so y'all forgive me, but I'll play the commercial and then I'll come back with the announcement. Let's see.
We need all the tired, poor, huddled masses of America who have had enough of the two-headed snake that has been our parties and our current and former president. Please sign up at cornelwest2024.com volunteer or scan the QR code to join the movement for a new choice. Join us on Mondays at 7:15 p.m. EST by scanning the QR code. Paid for by Hoosiers for Dr. Cornel West for president.
And this special announcement. Next week, for all of those who want giggles and laughs, I will be covering the Republican National Convention. It starts, I believe, the 15th? Whatever day it starts, I think it's the 12th. No, wait a minute. Today's the 13th. Does it start Monday or does it start Tuesday? Whatever day it starts, coverage starts at 8:45 p.m. I'll only do an hour because I'm not trying to list. Straight up laughs because that's what I expect to get. I do want to go to the Democratic National Convention because I think it's going to be a hot mess and I want to be there because it's in Chicago and I'm close, but I can't figure out how I'm going to do it. But remember, CornelWest2024.com. Volunteer, donate, volunteer, donate. We'll see you next week. Have a great evening and bye-bye.
I enjoyed it, Tracy.